The law of inheritance, for example, take the right of inheritance. There are diverse views on the subject among different sections of society around the world. Some people favor women having the sole right of inheritance to the complete exclusion of men, others favor equal distribution between men and women, still others give women only some tiny leftovers and in reality keep everything in men's hands. Behind all these systems there is clearly an attempt to maintain the influence and supremacy of one gender or the other, rather than to demonstrate rational judgment and humanitarian concern. In fact, a final decision on this issue should be based on the fundamental principle that we will not deprive anyone, we will give equal opportunities to both men and women concerning the right of inheritance. At the same time, we will enact laws to ensure the orderly administration and preservation of property in order to reduce the possibility of a breach of domestic peace. In most countries, society is patrilineal. The patrilineal system has some advantage over the matrilineal one. There are two main advantages. The first advantage stems from the fact that it is not as easy to determine the identity of the father as that of the mother, and in the absence of any direct blood relationship, too, the mother's affection for her children is generally greater than the father's. Under these circumstances, the patrilineal system is much better, for it awakens in the father a proper sense of responsibility for his children and precludes the possibility of the children's identity remaining unknown or concealed. And the father is compelled by circumstantial pressure to take responsibility for bringing up his children, and therefore makes an effort to properly preserve the structure of the family. Among less developed creatures, fathers rarely take care of their offspring due to the absence of this sort of circumstantial pressure. The second advantage of the patrilineal system complements the first. Since the relationship between the father and the child is known, the mother naturally does not feel so very alone in rearing the child. The physical and mental structure of a woman is such that even though she may have all the requisite ability to take care of her children, it is extremely difficult for her to bring them up properly and to adequately provide for food, clothing, education, and medical care all alone. At the same time, she has to keep her children with her or near her, or else it becomes difficult for the children to survive. Therefore, if men, instead of women, take the main responsibility for providing food and clothing, while women, after duly attending to the needs of the children, where possible or in cases of necessity earn money by working either at home or outside, neither the children nor society will be adversely affected in any way. I do not support the supposed wisdom of those who advise women to spend their lives with ladles, tongs, and spatulas, because this is unrealistic. Necessity often compels women to discard this convention. Such a system may suit a handful of rich or upper middle class people, but it has no value for day laborers or the poor. Many of those who loudly advocate equal rights and the freedom of women, in reality keep their women behind a purdah or covered with a burqa. Even among such families, I have noticed poor housewives going to the market with their husbands to buy and sell, or to the fields, farms, or coal mines, voluntarily taking on light work. Evidently, they cannot afford to behave ostentatiously and live indolently behind a lace curtain. However, there are people who, in the name of giving equal rights to women in all spheres of life, want them to engage in heavy physical and mental labor which is unsuitable for them. Such an outlook is deplorable. It must be accepted that the physical bodies and nervous systems of women are not as strong as those of men, so men and women cannot work in identical areas. Apart from this, for physical reasons, women cannot work in the same way every day of the month, and during pregnancy and the post-delivery period the ability to work strenuously is severely restricted. These points must not be overlooked. There are many people who sentimentally think that if a few women are made ministers or members of parliament they will serve as shining examples of equal rights and the progress of women. But is this the correct attitude? Will it not be detrimental to society as a whole if rights are granted, or a principle of accelerating progress is adopted, at the expense of competence? The recognition of rights is a legal matter as well as a collective psychological phenomenon, and the only way to expedite progress is to establish a progressive education system. A woman who becomes a minister or an ambassador in any country is not an index of the real status of the women in that country. To raise the standard of women in society is neither so easy nor so cheap. Since rational analysis leads us to the conclusion that the patrilineal system is better than the matrilineal, the system of inheritance should be structured accordingly. Of course, at the time of drafting the law of inheritance, special precautions must be taken so that nothing is framed in the name of the patrilineal system that will make women slaves fighting for their very survival in the houses of their brothers or brothers-in-law. In other words, after recognizing the equal rights of women to use family property as long as they live and to enjoy a lifelong income from such property, the law of inheritance should be based on the patrilineal system.